Good morning. Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 8:46. Our next case is a parole revocation. Mr. Clyde Thomas. Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Clyde Thomas, 120473.
Mr. Thomas, let me explain our process to you. I'm going to review certain things with you. First, I'm going to review your parole revocation questionnaire. Do you have that with you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I'm going to go over the allegations that are made against you in an attempt to revoke your parole. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
At that time, I will ask you to plead either guilty, not guilty, guilty with the statement, or not guilty with the statement to the allegations. Then we'll have a hearing. There are certain persons here on your behalf that wish to speak. A social worker, Ms. Megan McDonough, and your lawyer, Ms. Danielle Perez, is also here to represent you. Do you understand our process?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ms. Perez, would you please make an appearance for the record?
Good morning, everyone. Danielle Perez on behalf of Clyde Thomas from Orleans Public Defender's Office.
Okay. Ms. Perez, do you have a copy of the parole revocation questionnaire?
I do not.
Okay. Let's go ahead and pull it up on the screen so Ms. Perez can view it.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, is that your signature at the bottom?
Yes, sir.
I noticed in the questionnaire that under the first question, it says, have you been treated for mental illness in the past 5 years, or are you currently taking medication for a mental disorder? And it appears that both have been checked, and it appears maybe you scratched out, yes, I'm not sure. What is the answer to that question?
On the medication, it's no.
You're not on medication. Have you been treated for a mental disorder in the last 5 years?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
And is all of the other questions there correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ms. Perez, do you have any comments on the questionnaire?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Mr. Thomas, I'm going to read you the allegations. Number 3, you moved and did not report your new address to probation and parole. How do you plead to that allegation?
Not guilty with statement.
All right. And number 4, on September the 28th of 2022, you were arrested by the Louisiana State Police, booked in Orleans for failure to register. Additionally, when you were arrested, you were found within 1,000 feet of 2 prohibited entities. The charge of failure to register was now crossed on February the 14th of 2023. First, I'm going to ask you, how do you plead to the allegation that you were arrested and booked for failure to register?
It's not guilty.
And the statement that the charges were now crossed is accurate.
Correct.
Mr. Thomas, your case has been assigned to me. So why don't you tell me a little bit? You pled not guilty with the statement. Why don't you tell me your statement, and then I'll ask a few questions of you after.
I'm not guilty with a statement. Not guilty with a statement. I was homeless. I was struggling to get up. I was struggling with homeless. And also, I was kicked out the house first, and I was struggling with homeless. Then after that happened,
Let me ask you a couple of questions. You were paroled on October the 19th of 2011. Is that right?
correct.
And from 2011 until shortly before your arrest, how did you perform? Did you have any violations of your parole at that time?
No, sir.
And where were you living, sir?
138 Shuffleton Highway, lot 11 Shuffleton Highway in
Okay.
New Orleans.
And how long did you live at that place?
10 years.
Okay. And were you working during that time?
Yes, sir.
And where were you working?
With Global Staffing.
Okay. And how long did you work with them?
Until now.
I'm sorry?
Until now.
So you worked the entire time, 10 years with them?
Yes,
It's my
sir.
understanding they still have that job available for you if you were to be returned to supervision. Is that correct?
Correct.
So tell me how it is you left the residence at on Chef Highway.
After I left Chef, my landlord kicked me out.
Why did you leave there?
My landlord kicked me out. Kicked me out.
Why did he kick you out?
I didn't pay his rent during the COVID time.
Okay, during the COVID times, you didn't pay his rent. And then where did you move to then?
3816 Clyde Street.
Now, who lives at Clematis? What is that?
It's a place for, it's a room in Bowood.
Okay. And were you keeping in touch with your parole officer all during this time?
The first one, yes. The second one, I tried to reach him, he never answered his phone.
Okay. Now, it's my understanding that in 2011, you registered as a sex offender when you were on Shell Highway. Is that right?
Correct. Correct.
Now, when you moved from there and had to go to Clematis, you
Correct.
registered, but you registered with the New Orleans Police Department as opposed to the sheriff's office. Is that right?
Correct.
Well, why did you do that? Did you realize that you had to register with the sheriff's office as opposed to the New Orleans Police Department?
Correct.
Why did you? I'm sorry?
Correct. I went to police department.
Okay.
Correct.
Why didn't you go to the sheriff's office?
To pay the bills, to pay the fees.
Okay.
The
Let me see if I can get my question out. Did you realize that in order to properly and legally register, you had to register with the sheriff and not the police? Did you understand that? You may know that now. Did you know that then?
Yes.
So why didn't you register with the sheriff's office as opposed to the police department?
The U.S. Marshal told me the probation officer goes to the U.S. Marshal.
Now, you were in contact with your parole officer even when you were living at Clematis, weren't you?
Correct.
So what happened at Clematis that required you to leave there to end up on Royal Street, I believe is where you were?
The landlord kicked me out again.
Why did the landlord kick you out then?
I had nothing. I only had $200 some left to pay for the rent.
You didn't have enough money to pay for your rent.
Correct.
So where were you living on, where did you go from Clematis?
From Clematis, I was homeless then, was walking around. My brother was there with me. My stepbrother was there with me all the way. He don't want me to stay out there on the street.
So when you left Clematis, you were homeless.
Correct.
Where were you living? Did you live on the streets for a while before you
Correct.
ended up? How long did you live on the streets?
But for 2 days, 3 days, this is 3 days.
Did you notify your parole officer that you had been kicked out of Clematis?
But my phone was off then.
Your phone was off then. Okay. Your cell phone, you had a cell phone?
Yes, sir.
Was it off because you couldn't pay your bill?
Correct.
Okay. So the place on Royal Street, that was your stepbrother?
Yes, sir.
And when did you move in there with him?
I spent the night. That's what I was doing, spending nights there.
How long were you there when you got arrested?
About 2 months.
Did you notify your parole officer that you had been on that you were on Royal Street?
No, sir.
Why not?
My phone, I was trying to use the phone, but the phone ain't going
Well, I
through.
understand that, but weren't you staying with your brother? He probably had a phone.
I tried to reach, but he never reached it. He never picked that phone number up.
Okay. You didn't know the phone number to get to your parole officer?
Correct.
Mr. Thomas, where would you live if we decided today after this hearing not to revoke you? Where would you live?
I got a house where now it says 7901 Diamond Road.
You would be willing to follow, you would be willing, okay. You would be willing to follow the recommendations of the Orleans Parish Public Defender's Office. It's my understanding that they have found some housing for you on Downman Road in New Orleans. Is that where you're talking about you'd be living?
Yes, sir.
Have you had any other violations since you've been on parole since this?
No, sir.
And have you been in touch with the people at your job?
I could go back.
And you can go back if you, okay. All right,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Thomas, you were not in violation, so that meant you were paying your fees.
Yes, sir.
And so you made paying your fees a priority.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Pay them even though you couldn't afford to pay for your rent. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, that's all I have.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Ms. McDonough.
Hi, my name is Megan McDonough. I'm a social worker with the Orleans Public Defenders, and I've been working with Mr. Thomas to put together the release plan that you have in front of you. Through conversations with him, at the root of this was somebody who was struggling with housing, and the housing that we were able to secure is shared living. So it will be covered through his Social Security check. He gets about $500 a month. And then he will be able to supplement his income when he returns to work. So I believe that this is a secure place for him and can be a permanent place.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Thomas, is there anything you'd like to say before we turn it over to Ms. Perez to close us out?
No, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas. Ms. Perez?
Thank you. Good morning again, everyone. I'd just like to know, like you had mentioned before, Mr. Thomas has been compliant with his parole since 2011. To my understanding, I didn't see any other violations, and I did subpoena those records from parole, and it looks like this was his first violation. And I'd like to also emphasize what Megan said. This is someone who was struggling with homelessness. And when he was arrested for failure to register, the state of Louisiana, specifically the prosecutors in Orleans Parish, they take failure to registers very seriously. It's very rare that they dismiss failure to registers. And in this case, I laid everything out for them that he was struggling with homelessness. And he did report to the New Orleans Police Department that he was homeless. And he had failed to do that with his probation officer, but he did try to, he was in a bind, and he was trying to find housing, and he was trying to keep up with work. I've spoken to Mr. Thomas several times. He knows the severity of being into something like this again. And now he knows he has resources. If he's ever in a bind like that, he has me, he has Megan McDonough. If something like this ever happens again, he knows to come with us, and we will be checking on him if he were to be released. Back to what I was saying with the state does take these charges very seriously. And in his case, they realized that he was someone who's struggling with homelessness. And with a release plan, they did decide to dismiss his case and give Mr. Thomas a chance to recuperate, find some housing, make some money, and live and stay on compliance with parole. So I would just ask that Mr. Thomas be given a second chance and to not revoke his parole.
Thank you, ma'am. Panel ready to vote? Mr. Thomas, the interview today, I appreciate your honesty and your discussions with us. It appears that since you were paroled in 2011, you were doing everything that you were supposed to do. You were working hard. COVID hit. COVID hurt a lot of things as it came through. It's very impressive that you continued to pay your supervision fees as opposed to paying your housing. That puts you in a very difficult position, however, with the registration laws. It seems to me that you were doing your very best to comply with everything. You kept up with your registration, even though you perhaps registered with the wrong agency. You certainly were trying to do the things that you were supposed to do. It appears to me that the Orleans Public Defender's Office has put together a plan that may be able to help you in the future with all those issues. So considering all of those things, it's my vote today not to revoke you and to conditionally upon your being approved at the place on Downman Street as a residence. And I would also order that you follow the plan that the Orleans Parish Public Defender's Office has put together, because it's a plan that's going to help you continue to do the things that you're doing. So that's my vote. Good luck to you. Ms. Jackson?
Mr. Thomas, my vote is the same. I think it's remarkable that you tried to even pay fees when you didn't have a roof over your head. And that speaks to your desire to be in compliance. And so there's a plan for you, and I'm glad that you have these services available. So my vote is to do not revoke, return to supervision, and to follow the plan put in place by the Orleans Public Defender's Office.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Wise?
Good morning. I want to commend you that you stayed out of trouble. You didn't get your name on the police report in all your struggles. And that's impressive for me. So my vote is the same. And I do want to tell the DA's office that there is a housing program with probation and parole. It escapes me the name of it right now. It's ETH or something, and it pays 6 months of $300 a month rent. So get with the community resource officer at the Orleans PNP office. And it's ETH or ET something. I just can't, it escapes me now. But talk with probation and parole about it. It's been going on for quite a while. They'll pay his rent for 3 months, up to 3 months. And to you, young man, get you a piece of paper and write some names and phone numbers on it, so you'll always have it. When you get by somebody with a phone, you have your officer's number, have somebody with the DA's office number, so you have that with you anytime you're out.
With the public defender's number.
You get the public defender's number and your PNP officer's number. So when you get by somebody with a phone, you can take it out and you can call them and you can check in. And when you call, if they're not there, leave a message. Don't just hang up. Say, I am, and I'm just calling and checking in because I was by a phone and I'm checking in and I'm doing all right, or whatever you need. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
That's you doing what you can do with the resource that you have. Best wishes to you. I believe you're gonna be all right. I really do. Best wishes to you.
Be blessed. Be
Mr.
blessed.
Thomas, your parole has been reinstated for you to follow the outline by the Public Defender's Office. Good luck to you, sir.
Be blessed.
All right, board. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you. We will be adjourned at 9:06 at Orleans Parish.